So welcome to this training class. I don't know, whatever it is. I never know what to call these things. Session on what to focus on at different stages of writing your book. And I asked the question over in the Get Book Ready Facebook group last week. We were looking for ideas of what to talk about on the podcast at the beginning of this year. And it felt like, I mean, there were a lot of questions, a lot of people saying, like, how do you bring your book together? So that kind of completion stage, or when you get to a point and it's like, well, what do I do now? But also how to get started. And it just felt like it would be helpful to kind of go through the different stages and to give you some like tangible ideas about, okay, if I'm feeling a bit stuck, like wherever I am, what would it be helpful for me to focus on right now, rather than just seeing like this huge project and just not knowing what to focus on. So I'm gonna share my screen. And Emma, you say you're driving as you listen, so need to be video off. Yeah, of course, that's okay. And you probably won't want to look at the slides if you're driving, but the slides, as ever, are do you see the slides? Yeah, thank you. They're more for me, you know, to keep me on track, because I can go off on a tangent at times. So feel free, to have your journal out, make some notes as we are going through. Like, my intention is, like I said, whatever stage you are at, you will get some insight into like what it would be most powerful for you to focus on at the moment. So let's dive in. And also, before I dive in, actually, let's get the next. Talk about this. I'll talk about this first, and I'm going to say about the non-linear kind of side of things in a moment. But I heard this last year sometime, and then it came up again. I don't know, I think I saw it somewhere yesterday. This like very sobering fact that only 97% of people who start to write a book actually finish it, which is quite staggering. And I saw somewhere else this morning that 80% of people actually want to write a book, or have that kind of dream of writing a book. Like, I don't know where these figures come from. Obviously, they're based on like a sample. But it doesn't really surprise me, because I speak to so many people, obviously, who are wanting to write books. And, so many kind of are like, what's the word? What is the word that I'm trying to find? Like, kind of floating around maybe the unbound writing community and not quite kind of stepping into the process of writing their books and actually getting to the point of completion. And I know for some of us, it can also take quite a period of time to complete our books. And I want to make sure that everyone here, everyone in the unbound writing community, like everyone that I connect with, that we get to be in the 3% who do actually, it should be. It should. It's only, yeah, exactly. That slide is completely wrong, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean? It's only 3% of people who start to write a book actually finish it. 97% of people don't. So thank you. I should have an editor looking at my slides. Thank you, Dino. But the point is, I want to make sure you're one of the 3%. So even though, you would have heard me, I think pretty much everyone here would have heard me speak about the book writing process before, and how like it is very much a non-linear process, particularly when we approach it in this unbound way. But you know, the way I'm going to be talking about it today are focusing on these 3 stages. So we have the beginning stage, which can last quite a long time, actually. The beginning stage, it can feel like you're in the beginning stage, like for the majority of the process. In my experience, I am kind of over a year, like deeply into the process of writing my next book, The Abundant Author. And in a way, it still feels often like I'm in the beginning stage. And this is when we are conceiving our books, like we're really getting to know what our books are, what it wants to be. And this stage is all about clarity, like tuning into that clarity. So we don't need to rush this stage. I guess that's my point. If it's felt like you've been at the beginning of your book for a long time, that's okay. It's completely normal. I just want to say, if you do have questions as we're going through, please feel free to pop them in the chat. I'll either answer them as we're going through, or I'll save them for the end. It depends if it kind of ties in with what I'm sharing. So yeah, there's the beginning stage, there's the middle, where we're really in creation mode, like we're pretty clear on what the book is, and we're just kind of diving in and getting it done. And it can feel messy at this stage. My sense is, for like the people in the group who are asking, like, how do you bring it all together? You kind of are either in that middle stage, or you've been in that middle stage and you've got a lot of content for your book. And then it's about moving into the end stage, which is all about completing it and actually allowing your book to take form. So those are the 3 stages that I'm going to be talking about today. And when I'm talking about these stages, like everything I'm going to be sharing, the different steps, the different things to focus on, all of that is what is included in the Birth Your Transformational Book program, which starts next week. It's open on a rolling basis. So we're starting next week. We do have an opening call next week, but it is going to be open. Oh, let's let Charlie back in. Like I said, it's going to be open on a rolling basis. So I will talk a little bit about that at the end. And yeah, I'll talk more about that when we get to it. But everything that I'm going to be sharing here is what we're going to be diving into more fully in Birth Your Transformational Book. So let me just ask, actually, in terms of those stages, like beginning, middle, messy middle maybe, and end, where do you feel you are at the moment with your book? Like if you're able to pop that in the chat, just beginning, middle, or end, or maybe you don't know, which, because you can be in a little bit, Nicola, you're definitely in the messy middle. Dinah, you are definitely towards the end. Yolanda is at the very beginning. You can be a little bit in all of those stages. Eloise, you're at the beginning. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Jennifer, you're beginning, but have another one potentially in the middle. Charlie, beginning but creating. Maridi, you're ending idea and have to rewrite everything now. Julia, you're definitely at the end. Eloise, depends on the book though. Yeah. And this is the thing. This is the thing. Like, I'm going to be sharing different things to focus on at each of these stages. But like even the pieces from the beginning, they can be helpful to revisit when you get to the end. So like I said, there's very much this non-linear, I'm talking about them in a linear way, because, you know, I want to keep it simple for you. But I don't want you to think, oh, if I'm at the if I'm at the end, then I don't get to kind of revisit the pieces from the beginning, and vice versa as well. Just tune in and see what would feel most helpful for you right now. So the first stage is conceive. So like I said, this is very much about clarity. And these are the 3 areas that I would recommend you focus on if you're at the beginning stage, like maybe you haven't even started yet, you're not quite sure what your book is. These are the 3 things, the 3 areas that I would recommend that you spend some time focusing on. What else did I want to say? I don't know, there was something just bubbling in my awareness there. Maybe it'll come through. Maybe it'll come through as I'm sharing. Or maybe it's not important at all. So as you are starting out on your book writing journey, what I am always going to recommend as your starting point, if you haven't already, is to connect with your book. And when I talk about connecting with your book, it's this idea that your book has this essence, this energy, this personality, this spirit, however you want to think of it, this soul of its own. So you get to be in partnership with your book during the book writing journey. Yeah, so you're not doing it on your own. You invite your book into the process, or there's the potential to invite your book into the process and have an ongoing relationship with it. And what this does, like, my sense is that if you are here in this community, I mean, I know a lot of you have been through this process before of connecting with your book, but even if you haven't, like, if you feel this sense of being called to write your book, then very often it's going to have been your book that is actually calling to you, like this idea that wants to come through you. So there's already that connection there. But what we do at this stage is we kind of like formalize that connection. Like we make contact and we invite our books to co-create with us. And what that means is, rather than, you know, trying to figure out what the book wants to be, like what is the book that you should be writing, because again, it's very likely, if you're here, that you have a number of ideas, you know, of what you could be writing about, is you actually connect with the book. And you can do this like in meditation. You know, I have a free connecting with your book visualization. If you haven't listened to that already, then let me know and I can send that over to you. So you can do it in meditation. You can do it when you're out for a walk. You can do it like on the page, like come to the page and connect with your book and ask, like, you know, what is it that would be most powerful for me to be focusing on and writing about right now? And you will gain so much clarity through that process. Yeah. And even if you do have a sense, or a really clear sense, of what your book is going to be about, I would still recommend like being in regular connection with your book, really inviting the essence of your book into the process with you, like to come on the journey with you. Because then whenever you're feeling stuck, whenever you're not quite sure on the way forward, I would always say, like, first step, and if you could just pop yourself on mute if you're joining, just for the recording, that would be amazing. Yeah, that would always be the first thing that I would recommend when you're feeling a bit unsure about how to move forward. Like, connect with your book first and foremost, because very often that's going to give you the clarity that you're seeking, or at least a part of the clarity that will help you to move forwards. So that is foundational when it comes to the book writing journey. And I've put it in the beginning, but I would recommend, like, this is a practice that you get in right through the process, right to the end, like even when you're thinking about how you're going to publish the book, and also once it's out in the world, like how it wants to be shared. The second element here is to define your mission. And when I say mission, like, you can substitute that for, like, you know, what's your vision, what's your intention, what's your purpose? Yeah. What's the change you want to create? What's the change you want to activate? What's the transformation you want to hold space for through your book? And again, you know, that's likely to be, you know, if you're doing some kind of work in the world, which like most of you here, I would say, have some kind of like soul-led work that you are doing. Like, your book is very likely to tie in with that in some way. It will be a layer of the work that you are doing in the world. But it's really worth spending some time, like, sitting down and going, actually, yeah, like, why do I feel called to write this book? Like, what is the vision that I have for it? Like, when it goes out into the world, what is the impact that I want it to have, like, on the reader? But also, what's the impact that I want it to have, like, for me as the author? Yeah. And also, what's the impact that I want it to have on the collective, on the world? Like, those three different layers, really, really powerful to tune into those. And again, that will help, like, all of these pieces are going to give you, like, pieces of the puzzle that you get to piece together, giving you more clarity. So connect with your book, define your mission, your vision, your intention, whatever word you want to use. And then also looking back, reflecting on your personal experience, like looking back through your life, the personal stories, experiences that you've had that can bring your book to life. Okay, and illustrate the messages you want to share. But actually, like, you know, what I've written there is like presupposing that you, like, have all the clarity about what your book is. But if you have connected with your book and you know, you've been asking the question, like, what is my mission? What is my purpose? What is my intention? And there's still, like, some pieces where you feel it could be clearer. Coming back to your personal experience, like looking back at your life and, like, those key moments, those key experiences, like what you felt drawn to, the challenges that you've moved through, those key turning points, like what you've learned, taking some time to go through the timeline of your life and drawing out those key moments, those key stories and experiences. Again, that's going to give you another layer of clarity, because this is what makes your book or your books you. Yeah. Your, you know, the unique lens that you are looking through, that you're able to share as the author you are. So it's not just about sharing information, it's really bringing your own personal experience, your own stories through in your book to really bring it to life. Okay, so that's the three pieces that I would recommend you focus on, like, right at the beginning of the process. And of course, you get to come back to all of those. These are things that you'll revisit right through. But if you're struggling to know where to start, those three areas are going to give you a really great foundation to move forward. And all of it is, you know, it's like this journey of exploration. We get to go on. More and more clarity drops in as you are going through your process. But those are three kind of like hooks, three anchors that are going to help you, like, give you something really tangible to focus on. So out of those three, if you are at the beginning, or even if you are in your process right now, which one of those feels like it would be most powerful to focus on or to revisit? And just pop it in the comments if you feel called. Or if you've got any questions about any of those. Nicola, yeah, connecting to my book and going back to my mission. Yeah, it's so powerful. Like, you know, that's what I'm continually doing, particularly the mission bit at the moment with my own book, because otherwise I just start to get a bit lost and drift off. So it's so powerful to do that. Jennifer, connecting to the soul of my book and my purpose. Yeah. Yolanda, you're saying that as well. Dine, you're always getting new clarity on mission. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, like I said, this is not like a one-off process. It will carry on. But the earlier you can start tuning into these things, it's really powerful. Julia, how she wants to come into the world feels like a powerful question during this final edit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like how our books want to be launched, or released or burst into the world, like how they want to be shared. It's really, really potent to ask that question. Charlie, I feel like connecting with it is important and want to gather some stories and experiences. Yeah. You know, it's a really important, it can be like such a powerful exercise just to, I mean, like some stories and experiences will like naturally be there, but being really intentional with it and spending some time really looking back through your life and going, okay, well, what are the stories that feel kind of resonant with what I want to share? I don't think you can, you know, you can't do that too much. It's a really powerful process. Brilliant. So let's move on to the messy middle. I shouldn't call it the messy middle. I might not be messy. But this is all about where you really dive into the creation process. And of course, like it's not like you are waiting for all the clarity before you start to create. I recommend that as soon as you are ready to commit to your book and say yes and get started, like you are writing through all of these stages. So, you know, you're writing as you are in that process of conceiving your book and getting the different layers of clarity. Jude, you say, yes, it feels like a mix of soul intention, my experiences, and how she wants to be shared with the world. Beautiful, beautiful. Let's talk about the 3 areas that can be helpful when it comes to the messy, magical middle, because like the magic is in the mess. We want to allow ourselves and our process to be messy. We want to allow the not knowing. Yeah, we don't want to be scared of it. So, you know, the pieces I'm giving you today to focus on can help, like I say, to create these anchors. And it's also really powerful to give ourselves time and space, like to really be in that kind of voidy place of not knowing. So like really allowing the ebb and flow, because that's where very often we uncover the magic that wants to come through. So the first piece that I'm going to recommend that you focus on here, which kind of, it can go hand in hand with like looking at our own stories and experiences, but it's the reader journey. And I know many of you have heard me speak about this before. But in terms of what the reader journey actually is, like this is thinking about feeling into the journey you want to take your reader on. Yeah. And again, this ties in with like your mission, your intention, your vision. That will give you a lot of insight into, okay, well, what's the impact that I want to have? What is the journey I want to take my reader on? Like really, what's the flow of your book? You don't necessarily need to have a clear sense of this at the beginning. That's why I put it in this middle stage. You can be like, I really encourage you to be free in your process. Just allow what wants to come through, certainly at the beginning. But when you get to a point, it's like, actually, I want to start bringing a bit of structure in. I want to have a sense of what goes where. Looking at this piece, thinking about the reader journey is going to be really powerful. And there are different ways that you can take your reader on a journey. I mean, one, it might be based on your own story. So maybe kind of the structure of the book, the journey you're taking your reader on mirrors your own. It could mirror your whole life experience. If you're writing a book that's kind of memoir based, it could either be based on like the whole of your life, which some of our authors have pretty much done at the Unbound Press, or one specific part of your life. Over Christmas, I was reading a book. Oh, I can't remember the woman's name. She wrote Wintering. I don't know if any of you have read Wintering. Catherine, is it Catherine May? But her book, it was the book before Wintering, and it was about her experience of when she recognized that she was autistic. And at the time she was walking the Southwest Path here in the UK. And so it's very much based on her experience of walking that path. And that kind of created the structure for the journey that she was taking us on as the reader. But it was also her journey of like discovering, realizing that she was autistic. So it was like one specific time in her life that she was talking about, but using her experience of like walking this path as the literal journey that she was taking us on, which was really, really powerful. So there are lots of different ways that you can approach it like that. It may be that you're taking your reader through a particular process, so which may mirror, again, the work that you're doing in the world. Maybe when you're working with people, you take them through like particular steps or stages of a process. So your book could mirror that process. Or there may be certain principles that you want to share. So this is something that I used with my second book, Unbound. At the beginning, it was very much, like introduction, sharing a little bit about my story, but then through the writing process, these 5 particular like principles started to come through. Now, I didn't know at the beginning that that's the form the book was going to take. So I needed to allow myself to be really free earlier on in the process. And that's what I mean by like letting yourself explore, not expecting like all of the clarity to drop in right away. But it became clear there were these 5 principles. So that actually helped the book to take form. Later on in the process, I knew there was like this introductory stage, then talking about the 5 principles. Then I talked about some of the challenges people might experience. And then at the end, sharing some practices that would be helpful. And all the way through, I was like dropping in elements of my own story. So I really recommend that even if, it's not a memoir that you're writing, you still are using a lot of your story to really illustrate what you're sharing. It can be your story, or it could be the story, you could be sharing the story of people you've worked with, clients, or you could use other people's stories as well to bring it to life. But really asking that question, what is the journey I want to take my reader on? And it's interesting because I was having this conversation with a group of writers. They're writing a collaborative book, and we had a session before Christmas, and it's not a collaborative book in the usual sense where everyone just writes their piece around a particular theme, and then it's a series of individual pieces that are actually like creating the book together. And there was a little bit, not tension, but people have different views about the reader journey. And some of the people were like, they wanted it to be quite structured. And certainly one of the contributors was like, actually, you know, I want it to be more of a mysterious process for the reader. I don't want to make it really explicit, like what it is, or, you know, I want to leave it really open to them, the journey that they take. So it's always up to you as the author. Like, you get to make that decision. If you want it to be a magical mystery tour, then go for it. What I would say is, you know, some people are like, well, I want my book to be, you know, it's not a journey at all. I want it to be like they could open it at any page and just receive whatever they need on that particular day. Amazing. But what you want to do, if that's the case, I would say, is just let your reader know at the beginning. So at the beginning of the book, let them know like how to engage with your book, I guess. And like the more mysterious, even that though, you might say, actually, no, I just want them to dive in and they get to decide exactly how they want to experience it. And of course, it's all unbound. But those are just some ideas of how to think about and feel into the reader journey. I don't know if there are any of those that are calling to you for your particular books, or whether it's like more memoir based, whether you're taking them through a process, whether you're sharing certain principles, or you want it to be more like a divination, where they can just like open it on any particular day and receive what they need. Or if you want it to be totally mysterious, do pop it in the comments. And it's powerful, like as you put things in the comments and just reflect back, that's helping clarity to land for you. So I would love to hear. The second piece to focus on, and again, this is definitely something to be looking at right through the process, is looking at any fears or doubts that are bubbling up for you. So this is very much part of the creation process. It's likely that the deeper you get into your process, the more there is potential for different flavors of fear and doubt to be bubbling up. And that's a powerful thing. Like, that can actually be a really potent part of your creation process. There will definitely be stuff coming up at the beginning, like before you even start thinking about writing your book, before you even allow yourself to make the decision to write it. But the more we get into the process of writing our books, like, all sorts of stories and fears and doubts can come up. And one of those, you know, it can be like, well, I don't know how to do this. I don't know if I can actually move through this kind of messy middle stage, this mysterious middle stage, and bring it into form. Yeah. And of course, you know, there are practical elements to that, but there can be like quite sneaky and very clever parts of us that make us believe, no, it's just not possible. It's too confusing. So I'm just going to leave it. And yeah, you know, it was good to give it a go, but I'm not quite sure I'm ever going to finish this. So at this stage, it's really about acknowledging any fears or doubts that are coming up. And what I always recommend here is to like really allow space for them. Really like invite, like welcome in any fears or doubts that are coming up. Because when you do that, like, one, it helps them to like lose their power because you are bringing them out into the open, but also you get to bring them to the page. So anything that's coming up for you, particularly as you were writing about like areas of your elements of your story, like taking your reader through a particular process, or maybe sharing certain principles, like whatever it is you're writing about, if there are particular fears and doubts coming up for you, it's very likely that similar ones are coming up for your reader. as well. Yeah, I was just trying to kind of tune into an example of that. But there could be, like, very often there's a piece around like not feeling good enough, or like, who am I to do this? Or, oh, it's self-indulgent for me to really be sharing elements of my story. It feels much more comfortable to focus on like sharing information. And like, if anything like this is coming up, it's pretty much certain that it's going to be like bubbling up for your reader as well. So as well as being part of your process at this stage, like working with any fears or doubts that are coming up and allowing yourself to move through them, it can provide like amazing content for your book as well. So just being aware of that is really, really powerful. And then the third element here is storytelling, but also like honing your craft, like generally, not necessarily just in terms of storytelling, but like really recognizing like this is part of your identity, and it is part of your identity. Like, you are an author, a writer, if you are here. Like, there's no question about that. So you get to hone your craft. And again, this is an evolving process. It's not something, it's not like, okay, I am a good writer now, so I am done. You know, there's no kind of exam or test for this, but it's just recognizing that as you are in this kind of creation stage, you get to like find out who you are as a writer and experiment with that. And what that can look like is, I spoke about this earlier in the week on an Instagram Live, is like really looking at other writers. Like, this is a stage where, like, sometimes like towards the end of your process, and maybe at the beginning, I recommend like being in your own process and not necessarily reading lots of other books or looking at lots of other writers. But this can be like, when you're in creation mode, it can be quite helpful to do that, just from a perspective of noticing like the kind of writing you enjoy. What is it about particular writers that feels really compelling to you, like how they write, and starting to experiment with your own process. Yeah. You know, this process of using your stories to illustrate the key messages you want to share. Like, how do you want to tell your stories? And like giving yourself permission maybe to lean into that kind of too much part that we very often can rein in. So like recognizing that as the writer you are, you get to work on your craft of writing, whether that's fiction, non-fiction, whether it's storytelling, or, you know, how can I share this information in the most powerful way? And it can be helpful to look at other writers, either authors or maybe people you follow online. It's like, what is it about the way they communicate that feels really compelling to me? Like, how can I make that mine? Like, if it feels good to me, like, am I holding back in some way? Am I kind of reining myself in? I'm not allowing myself to do that. So being in this kind of experimental phase when it comes to how you express yourself, and knowing that's all part of your process, like finding your voice. You know, how is it that you want to communicate with your reader? You know, do you want to bring more humor in? Do you want to bring more simplicity through in the way you express yourself? Or are you more whimsical? Like, do you want to be mysterious? Or do you want to be really straightforward and direct? Like, what is the style? What is the flavor that you want to bring through in your writing? So those are the 3 areas that I would recommend that you focus on when you are in this middle stage. So the reader journey, that's going to give you like the structure, the form, the flow of your book, and deciding. And this is the thing, at any of these stages, like, you just get to decide. I think sometimes we're waiting for someone else to tell us like what we should do when it comes to different pieces of our book, different areas of our book. But you get to decide at any stage. It's like, well, what do I want it to be? Like, how do I want this to look? Nicola saying, please tell me. I mean, I can tell you. But it's powerful to, like, because there's no right answer. There is no, like, you can't get it wrong. You cannot get it wrong. I'm sure you've heard me say that before. But you just get to, like, we spend so much energy like trying to get it right, trying to think, okay, but what is the right way for me to do this? And there is no, whatever decision you make is absolutely perfect. Like, just decide. And you would have had this experience. It might not be with like your book, but I'm sure in life, like, sometimes we'll make a decision, we'll say, okay, I'm going to do this. It might be like, I don't know, like deciding what coffee shop to go to or whatever it is, something like really simple, what to have for dinner. And as soon as we make the decision, it's like, oh, actually, I don't want to do that. It's the same with our book. If you decide, okay, I am going to structure my book, I am going to take my reader through these certain stages, and then you start writing it in that way or bringing it into form in that way, and it's like, actually, no, like, that the life's gone out of it when I approach it like that. So just making a decision will just give you so much clarity, because if it's not actually what you want, you will know. So which of those elements do you feel most drawn to right now? If you are in the middle, if you are in creation stage, or wherever you are, which one do you feel it would be helpful for you to focus on or revisit? The reader journey, like diving into any fears or doubts, Nicola, yeah, the reader journey. Or really spending some time honing your craft, storytelling. Yolanda, the alchemizing fear. Jennifer, fear and doubts, exclamation mark. Dine doubt. Oh, so interesting. Do you know what? Because I doubted putting that part in there. I was like, does it fit there? It really does. I just feel, we can shy away from looking at what's coming up, but that's where the transformation is. Like, really, that's at the heart of the process, like allowing ourselves to move through these fears and doubts, because that clears the way for our readers to do the same. Charlie, stories, yeah. Nicola, you were in fear and doubt just last week. Yeah. Well, it's going to be, when we're writing these transformational books, like, fear and doubt, resistance of every flavor, it's going to be present. It's going to be present right throughout the process. And recognizing that is like quite liberating, because it's like, oh, actually, okay, this doesn't make me wrong. It doesn't mean I shouldn't be doing this. It's a normal part of the process. And actually just shows like how important this is to me, and also how powerful what I'm writing is. Jude, honing your craft to keep turning up the fire for myself. Turning up for myself. Yeah, but turning up the fire, like, that totally made sense to me. Yeah. Yeah, and that is the most important thing, to keep showing up for ourselves. So I'm going to move into the completion stage. And again, you know, this bringing it all together, like, you can start this, you can like play with elements of this, like some of it right from the beginning of the process, actually. Start tuning into what you want to do. Like, certainly, you know, one of the things I'm going to be talking about is publishing. Like, how do you want to birth your book? You can start thinking about that and feeling into it right at the beginning. But these are, like, if you're moving towards the end game with your book, you want to be thinking about these things. So the first is like bringing together a first draft of your manuscript. It has so many conversations in the unbound writing community, like, what is a first draft? I mean, what I'm talking about here is a pretty complete first draft. Like, you can have a really messy, the kind of, you know, what would be called the shitty first draft of your book. Like, at any stage, really, you can like look at what you've got, and, you know, maybe that's when you are starting to kind of get clear on your reader journey or what stories you want to be sharing. What I'm talking about here is bringing it together into, like I say, a pretty complete first draft of your manuscript. So, you know, this is where you've been thinking about what the reader journey is. So you get to form your book into different stages that kind of reflect that journey you're taking your reader on. And also thinking, like, as well as the kind of core of the book, the main content of the book, thinking about pieces like, do you want to include a foreword? Like, do you want to get someone to write a foreword for you? It doesn't have to be like a really well-known person. People get quite hung up on that. You can write anyone, ask anyone to write a foreword for you if you feel called, and you don't have to have one. I think I've only done that for one. I think just for my first book, actually, Heal You're in a Good Girl, I invited Lisa Lister to write the foreword for it, which, you know, amazing. I haven't done that for any of my other books because, yeah, I just didn't feel called, and I think I just wanted, to birth them. Didn't feel like I needed anyone else to write anything, like, as an introduction. But you want to start thinking about pieces like that, like your introduction to the book, whether you call it an introduction, a prologue, whatever you want to call it. You don't have to call it, it could be just, you know, that could be the first chapter. But like, how are you going to introduce your book? How are you going to help your reader land? Things like acknowledgements, recommended resources. So not just the content of the book, but like anything else that you want to be included. If you have like an afterword, I quite often have done that with my books. Like, when I've got to the end and like everything's there, it's like, you know, what else do I want to share? Like, what are those kind of last thoughts that I want to share with the reader? So like bringing it together in this pretty complete manuscript, which would be the stage before it gets passed over for editing. And I would always recommend that you have like somebody else, preferably a professional, like someone who, like, this is what they do, to proofread at least, and, you know, like copy edit, or maybe if, you know, if you want a more structural edit, getting someone experienced to do that for you, like getting different eyes on your book. But part of that process before you actually pass it over for editing is this next stage is, I think the idea of beta readers can sound a bit scary. They sound a bit formal. So, which it can be. you know, you can put something out and say you're like looking for people to give your manuscript a read through, like get some initial readers of your book. Or you can reach out to particular people, like trusted people, friends, people in the unbound writing community, and ask if they would be willing to give your manuscript a read through. So before it necessarily gets passed over for editing. And that can be for the intention of like certainly getting feedback, like how people experience your manuscript as a reader. Like this is something I tend to do for the Unbound Press authors. Before we move into the editing phase, I will read through the manuscript very much as a reader. So not in editing mode, but offering like any notes or suggestions, based on, you know, how it feels to me as a reader. And also it can be with the intention of getting endorsements and reviews as well. If somebody's had a read through, they can provide you with endorsements, which can actually be included in the book as well. So this is a really powerful stage to move through. It might not be in particular that you want feedback, to be honest. Or you might not necessarily want to make changes based on the feedback. Again, you're the author and you get to decide whether, like, if somebody lets you know something that maybe they would change about the book, you get to make a call on whether you actually do that. So when you are inviting people, beta readers, to have a read through your manuscript, you just want to be really clear about what your intention is and what you would like to receive from them as well. But that's a really powerful part of the process to go through, and also terrifying, I have to say. I'm always really conscious of that when an Unbound Press author or anyone shares any of their writing with me. You know, particularly like sometimes it's the first time that they've actually shared, certainly the complete manuscript. I know some of you here have had that experience of passing your book over for that kind of, for someone else to read or for me to read. And I think it's always really, really scary. So like I say, I'm always really conscious of that. But the thing is, it's something that we do need to get used to as authors, because I mean, that's what we're doing. We're writing books to go out there into the world and be read. So it's a really important part of the process. And also at this stage, if you haven't before, you want to be feeling into like how you want to publish your book. So, I mean, most likely, if you wanted to go down the traditional publishing route, that's something that you would have been aware of and like taking steps towards, usually before you even start writing your book, because traditional publishers will be looking, they'll be looking for something quite specific generally. So you normally would have been through a process of like putting together a book proposal, maybe getting an agent and approaching different publishers. But you can start to think about, like, if you want to self-publish, like how you're going to do that, who can support you. Maybe you decide to work with a hybrid publisher, which is the model we have at the Unbound Press, like whether you want to get that kind of support. You most likely would have been considering this to some degree earlier on, but this is where you start to think, okay, how do I want to do this? And again, as we spoke about earlier, it's really powerful to connect in with your book and ask your book how it wants to be birthed. So you're really getting clear on the next steps and how you want to like launch and release your book. like starting to give some consideration to that, thinking about your book launch party if you want to have one. Again, I know that's something that some of you have been thinking about. That can be like a really fun thing to focus on at that stage. So what there feels like, what do you feel most drawn to out of those? Like bringing together that first draft of your manuscript. And there's something there around like allowing yourself to know that your book is done, like it's cooked, it's complete. Our books will never feel completely complete to us. They'll never feel completely ready. So, you know, in this end stage of our books, we need to decide, okay, that's enough. This is enough. And like anything else can go into another book, or I can share it in some other way, but I'm giving myself permission to complete this now and to know that it's complete. Because at the end of the day, like we want to be in that 3%. Yeah. We want your book to be going out into the world and reaching the people that it's meant to reach. So getting your first draft together, perhaps sharing your manuscript with beta readers and thinking about how to publish your book, how to release it, how to birth it. So we're going to have some time for questions. If there's anything bubbling, please do pop it in the chat. I'm just going to talk about sending your brilliant book out into the world. That's what we want. And are you ready to birth your transformational book? Oh. Didn't know I could go backwards with my slides, so I managed to do it. Oh, so yeah, we are going to have Q&A, but I want to talk a little bit about Birth Your Transformational Book, the new group program, which is starting next week. Like I said, it's open on a rolling basis, so it's ready for you when you are ready to like commit to your book and actually go through this process to birth it into the world. I know some of you are in already, which is very exciting. I'm really excited to get going next week. What it does is it takes you through each of these 3 stages to birth your book. So everything we've spoken about today is what we're going to be diving into more fully in Birth Your Transformational Book. When you join, you get 12 months access to step-by-step trainings on each of these areas that we've spoken about today. We have 2 live coaching calls per month with me, 24-hour support in our members only group, and you also will be invited to 2 group writing sessions every month. It may be that the number of live sessions include the number of live sessions like increase, like depending on the size of the group, but that's what we're starting off with. Like I said, it's open on a rolling basis. So, you know, people can join at any time, but when you join now, you get access to these special introductory bonuses. So there's this bundle, which is dedicated to growing your community. So we're looking at book launching, collaborations to grow your community, and also as a media kit template, which will help you with like when you're pitching to things like podcasts or publications that you want to be featured in, like having that media kit is really powerful. You also get these Unbound Press author benefits. So when you join Birth Your Transformational Book now, you can access 2 ISBNs, which are like the barcode that you need for your book. You need it for a paperback. You don't need it for an ebook, but it's still helpful to have one for your ebook. So we will allocate ISBNs to your paperback and your ebook. So you get those rather than having to buy them yourself. And also we will share your book with our email list. So that's things that normally only Unbound Press authors get to benefit from. And you also get 12 months complimentary access to our memberships, the Unbound Writers Club, which is where the writing sessions take place, and also the Abundant Author Academy, which is starting in March. And that's the Abundant Author Academy is all about like how to really like allow your book to be the foundation of the work that you're doing in the world, also how to like launch it in the most powerful way, how to allow your book to attract more abundance into your world in every single way. So if you are interested in joining us in that, I will put, let me stop sharing. Yay. I'll put the link in the chat so you can go and have a look, and then we'll get into some questions. Okay, so Eloise, you've said, how do you navigate the situation when some of the experiences you want to include involve a family member who disagrees with your version of events and it would hurt them to speak your truth? Yeah, so this is like a question that often comes up in one way or another. What I always recommend is when we're writing our books, we're always sharing about like our own experience, our own perspective. And you could say that like at the beginning of your book, like make some kind of statement, like acknowledging the fact that there may be people who see things differently, but you're choosing to write the book, like you can only write the book from your own perspective. And rather than writing it in a way like, oh, this person did this or this person did that, like writing about the impact that it had, that a particular experience had on you. So you're always bringing it back to yourself rather than, and I don't think you would do this anyway, Eloise, but you know, we're not writing necessarily about other people and kind of making them wrong. We're writing about how we were impacted by the experience. Yeah, does that help? Yeah. And that's something, what I would recommend when that's something that's coming up is, again, allow yourself just to write and be free with it at the beginning, and know, like when you get to the piece where you're bringing together your manuscript and getting it ready to share, like those are the kind of things that you can really like change, maybe make some changes at that stage, and be more kind of intentional and conscious of it at that stage. But just allow yourself to be really free at the beginning, like allow whatever wants to come through, even if it is you know, even if it is a bit of a rant, or you know, you're just talking about things really freely, and know that you get to make changes later on. So you get to express yourself, you get to express what you want to express, and then you know when you're getting it together, ready for publication, you can make any tweaks or changes. So that, I mean, the thing is, there may well still be people who are hurt by what we share, or annoyed, or like don't agree with us. All we can do is write from our own perspective. And there's something here about, you know, when you're connected with your mission, with your purpose, it's like, okay, I'm gonna trust myself to share this. Like even if there are people who don't like it. But yeah, really sticking with your own perspective, your own experience. Fantastic. Thanks, Eloise. Yolanda, you're saying I'll definitely have to get creative when it comes to anything my mother might recognize. Yeah. Yeah, it can be like that. And of course, we've had authors who have written about, well, they've written their books as fiction, but based on their own experience. And sometimes for that reason, because they wanted that freedom to be able to write about the area they wanted to write about without like sharing without them being the focus of it, or kind of anyone that they were connected with. So that can be another option as well. Anything else bubbling up? Oh my goodness, did we go for over an hour? My intention was, I did think it'd be about an hour of this. All good. Anything else? You can always reach out to me afterwards as well. And obviously, if you're watching the recording, please feel free to pop any questions over. All right. Jennifer, you're looking forward to starting Birth Your Transformational Book next week. Me too. Me too. What we've covered today is going to be like the core the core content. But my intention for Birth Your Transformational Book is like, it's going to be an evolving and a co-created process. Like whatever is coming up, whatever feels like it's a challenge, whatever anyone in the program needs in order to move forwards with their book, and make sure that you're all in that 3% who get to complete them. That we create that. So there's going to be the core content, but also like anything else that comes up along the way. You are so welcome. Thank you so much for joining. All right, my loves. Oh, and happy new moon as well. We've just been through the new moon, first one of the new year. So all the good vibes. Yeah, enjoy your rest of your day, and I'll see you soon. Lots of love. Bye.